The text from my mother arrived at 5 a.m. on the morning of my surgery. "Honey, we're so sorry we can't be there today. It's just routine treatment, right? We promised Marcus we'd watch his golf tournament finals. This is so important for his career. You understand? Love you." I stared at my phone in the pre-op room, already in my hospital gown for port placed in my arm. Routine treatment. That's what they'd been calling it for 6 months. My Crohn's disease surgery. A bowel resection to remove 18 inches of diseased intestine that had been slowly killing me for 2 years. "Just a little stomach issue," my father had said when I first told them about my diagnosis. "Take some probiotics. You'll be fine." "Crohn's disease is manageable now," my mother had dismissed. "It's not like you have cancer or anything serious." Not serious. Tell that to my gastroenterologist who'd watched my condition deteriorate despite every medication available. Tell that to the surgeon who'd explained the risks. Infection, bleeding, possible ostomy bag if the resection didn't heal properly. But my parents had decided it was routine treatment. And Marcus's golf tournament, a corporate charity event where he was networking with potential investors, was more important than being with me during major abdominal surgery. At 33, I was 3 years older than Marcus, but you'd never know it from how our family treated us. Marcus was the golden child, startup founder, tech entrepreneur, always chasing the next big funding round. His company had burned through $2 million in venture capital and still wasn't profitable, but my parents treated him like the next Steve Jobs. I was the disappointment. The one who'd chosen a boring corporate job, instead of being an entrepreneur. The one who worked in insurance of all things, the least glamorous industry imaginable to my parents who valued flash over substance. What they didn't know, what I'd kept carefully private, was what I actually did at that boring insurance company. I wasn't just an insurance employee. I was the director of provider relations and policy compliance for United Health First, one of the largest health insurance companies in the region. I oversaw coverage policies, audited claims, and had the authority to flag accounts for investigation when patterns of abuse appeared. I also managed my parents' health insurance policy. They were on my company plan through my employment benefits, a family coverage option that gave them excellent insurance at a fraction of the normal cost. They thought it was just basic coverage I'd added them to. They had no idea I was subsidizing their premium from my 6-figure salary, or that I reviewed every claim that came through the system. They definitely didn't know I'd been monitoring a concerning pattern in their claims over the past year. Unnecessary procedures, questionable specialist visits, a suspicious number of claims submitted for Marcus's sports injuries that didn't quite match the medical records. But that was a problem for another day. Today, I needed to get through surgery alone because my parents chose golf over their daughter's major operation. The anesthesiologist came in. "Ready, Emma?" "As ready as I'll be," I said, putting my phone away. "Your family not here yet?" she asked gently, noting the empty waiting area. "They had something more important to do." He squeezed my hand. "I'm sorry, but you're in excellent hands with Dr. Patel. We'll take good care of you." I went under anesthesia thinking about how I'd spent 6 months preparing for this surgery, arranging my medical leave, ensuring my department could run without me, setting up recovery care, all while my family acted like I was getting a dental cleaning. The surgery took 7 hours. Complications. The disease section was worse than imaging had shown. Dr. Patel had to remove more intestine than planned, and there was unexpected bleeding that required transfusion. I woke up in recovery with more tubes and drains than anticipated, more pain than I'd imagined possible, and a recovery timeline that had just doubled from 6 weeks to 3 months. My emergency contact, my friend and colleague Rachel, was there. My parents weren't. "How you feeling?" Rachel asked, holding my hand. "Like I got hit by a truck," I said groggily. "My parents call?" "No," she said carefully. "But Marcus posted on Instagram. Looks like he won his tournament." "Of course he did." Hold up. I spent 3 days in the hospital. My parents didn't visit once. They sent texts. "Hope surgery went well. Routine stuff, right? Marcus won his tournament. We're celebrating with dinner at the club. So proud. Honey, when are you coming home? Aren't routine surgeries usually same day?" "Emma, your father and I want to visit, but we're exhausted from the tournament weekend. We'll see you when you're back home." Same day surgery. I'd told them multiple times this was major abdominal surgery requiring hospitalization. But they'd heard routine and decided that meant easy. Rachel brought me home on day 4. My apartment was set up for recovery. Walker by the bed, medications organized, meal prep done. I'd arranged everything myself because I knew my family wouldn't help. The pain was excruciating. The incision ran 6 inches down my abdomen. I had 3 drains. I couldn't stand upright. I couldn't lift anything over 5 pounds. I needed help getting to the bathroom, changing bandages, managing the drains. Rachel had taken the week off work to stay with me. "This is what family should do," she said, helping me to the couch. "I'm so sorry yours isn't here." "I'm used to it," I said, though the abandonment stung worse than the surgical pain. On day 5 post-op, my mother finally called. "Emma, how was your procedure? Are you all better now?" "Mom, I had major surgery. I'm nowhere near better. I can barely walk." "Oh, don't be so dramatic. You're young and healthy. You'll bounce back fast. Listen, I'm calling because we need your help with something." Of course she did. Marcus's startup is applying for a big investment round, and the investors want to see proof of comprehensive health coverage for all executives. "Can you add Marcus to your insurance policy? Just temporarily for the due diligence." I closed my eyes, pain radiating through my abdomen. "Marcus has his own company. He should have company insurance." "Well, yes, but it's complicated. His company insurance isn't very good. We thought since you work in insurance you could just add him to your plan. It would really help him land this funding. This is a $5 million round, Emma. This could change his life." "I just had surgery, Mom. I'm on medical leave. Can we talk about this later?" "It would only take a minute. Just add him to your policy. You can do it online, right?" "It doesn't work that way. And even if it did, that would be insurance fraud." "Insurance fraud?" She laughed. "Don't be so dramatic. It's just paperwork. Families help each other, Emma. Families help each other." The irony was suffocating. "I have to go, Mom. My pain medication is making me dizzy." "Fine, but think about it, okay? Marcus really needs this. Unlike some people, he's actually trying to do something important with his life." She hung up. I sat there, drains tugging at my abdomen, pain throbbing with every breath, and thought about the pattern I'd noticed in my parents' insurance claims. The one I'd been putting off investigating because they were family. I opened my laptop and pulled up the claim history. What I found made my blood run cold. Over the past 18 months, my parents had submitted claims for over $75,000 in medical procedures. But looking closer, the pattern was clear. Inflated claims, procedures that weren't medically necessary, multiple visits to specialists for conditions that didn't exist in their medical records. And Marcus. They'd been submitting claims for Marcus using my policy, listing him as a dependent even though he was 30 years old and not eligible. Physical therapy for sports injuries that never happened. MRIs for conditions he didn't have. Specialist consultations that were actually business meetings. They'd been committing insurance fraud. Using my policy. Using my position. For 18 months while I'd been battling Crohn's disease, managing my department and preparing for surgery, my parents had been systematically defrauding the insurance company I worked for. The company where I was the director of policy compliance. The person responsible for investigating exactly this type of fraud. I should have reported it immediately. But they were my parents. So I'd ignored the red flags, made excuses, looked the other way. Not anymore. Revelation. I spent the next week recovering and building my case. Every claim, every submission, every fraudulent charge, documented, cross-referenced, verified. The evidence was overwhelming. $75,000 in fraudulent claims over 18 months. Marcus listed as a dependent when he wasn't eligible. Procedures billed that never happened. Specialists paid for consultations that were actually business meetings for Marcus's startup. My parents had turned my insurance benefit into a personal slush fund. And they'd done it while calling my life-threatening illness routine treatment, and skipping my major surgery for a golf tournament. On day 12 post-op, I was stable enough to work remotely. I scheduled a video call with my company's fraud investigation unit and legal team. "I'm reporting insurance fraud on policy number 447821. I said, my voice steady despite the pain. "The policyholders are my parents. The evidence is comprehensive." The lead investigator's eyes widened. Your parents? Emma, are you sure about this? I'm sure. I've documented everything. I should have reported it months ago. I didn't because they're family. That was wrong. I'm reporting it now. I walked them through every fraudulent claim, every inflated charge, every fake dependent submission for Marcus. The legal team took notes, their expressions growing more serious with each revelation. This is clear-cut fraud, the legal director said. We'll need to audit the entire policy, recover the fraudulent payments, and potentially pursue criminal charges. I understand, I said. I should have caught this sooner. I let family loyalty cloud my professional judgment. You're catching it now, she said. That takes courage. The investigation moved fast. Within 3 days, my parents received a certified letter. Their insurance policy was under audit for suspected fraud. All coverage was suspended pending investigation. They owed immediate repayment of $75,000 in fraudulent claims, plus penalties and fees. My mother called me screaming. What did you do? Our insurance was canceled. They're saying we committed fraud. They're demanding $75,000. You did commit fraud, Mom. I have 18 months of documentation. Fake claims for Marcus. Inflated procedures. Specialist visits that never happened. You had no right to investigate us. We're your parents. I'm the director of policy compliance. It's literally my job to investigate fraud. I should have reported it months ago. I gave you a pass because you're family. That was wrong. This will destroy us financially. How could you do this to your own parents? How could you commit fraud using my policy while I was dying from Crohn's disease? How could you skip my major surgery for a golf tournament? How could you call my life-threatening illness routine treatment? Silence. Emma, please. My father's voice came on the line. We didn't understand how serious your condition was. We made mistakes with the insurance, yes, but we can fix this. Don't destroy your family over this. You didn't understand because you didn't want to understand. You were too busy using my insurance benefit to fund Marcus's lifestyle to care about my actual health crisis. We're your parents, my mother said desperately. You have to help us. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. You work there, you can fix this. I can't fix fraud. And I won't. You made your choices. These are the consequences. My father's voice turned cold. If you go through with this, you're not our daughter anymore. I stopped being your daughter when you chose golf over my surgery, I said and hung up. Resolution. The investigation concluded within 3 weeks. The evidence was irrefutable. My parents were charged with insurance fraud. They were required to repay $75,000 in fraudulent claims plus $30,000 in penalties and legal fees. Their insurance coverage was permanently terminated, and they were blacklisted from obtaining coverage through any company in the United Health First network, which covered 70% of providers in our region. Marcus's startup funding fell through when the investors discovered the insurance fraud during due diligence. His company collapsed 3 months later. He blamed me publicly on social media, calling me a vindictive sister who destroyed the family. My parents' friends and relatives heard their version first, that I'd turned on family and destroyed them over paperwork mistakes. I didn't defend myself publicly. I didn't need to. The legal documentation spoke for itself. But my colleagues knew. My boss called me into her office 2 weeks after the investigation concluded. Emma, I want you to know that what you did took extraordinary integrity, she said. Reporting family members for fraud when you have the authority to bury it. Most people wouldn't have done that. You upheld your professional ethics over personal relationships. That's rare. I should have reported it sooner, I said. I let family loyalty delay justice. You reported it when you realized you couldn't look the other way anymore. That's what matters. She slid a paper across the desk. Effective immediately, you're being promoted to Vice President of Compliance and Ethics. With a 40% salary increase. I stared at the promotion letter. Thank you. You earned it. You proved you'll enforce our policies without exception. That's the kind of leadership we need. My recovery took 3 months. Rachel stayed with me for the first month, then I managed on my own. Physical therapy was brutal. The pain was constant. But I healed without my parents' help, without their support, without their presence. I healed despite them, not because of them. 6 months post-surgery I was fully recovered. My Crohn's disease was in remission. The surgery had saved my life. The routine treatment, my parents had dismissed as unimportant. I ran into Marcus at a coffee shop 1 year after the investigation. He looked terrible, stressed, aged, defeated. His startup dreams were dead. His reputation was ruined. "I hope you're happy," he said. "You destroyed everything." "I reported fraud," I said calmly. "You committed it. There's a difference. There are parents, Emma. You were supposed to protect them. They were supposed to protect me. They chose your golf tournament over my major surgery. They used my insurance to fund your fake lifestyle. They called my life-threatening illness routine. Tell me, Marcus, where's the family loyalty in that?" He had no answer. I walked away and didn't look back. My parents never apologized. Never acknowledged what they'd done. They told everyone who would listen that I was vindictive, cruel, ungrateful. I didn't care. I'd built a life without them. I'd been promoted twice more. I ran the entire compliance division now, overseeing fraud investigations across 6 states. I mentored young professionals in ethics and integrity. I donated to Crohn's disease research and patient support programs. I survived major surgery alone. I recovered alone. I built my career alone. And I did it all without compromising my integrity, without looking the other way, without letting family loyalty override professional ethics. My parents made their choices. They chose fraud over honesty. Golf over surgery. Marcus over me. I chose integrity. And I'd make that choice again every time. Some bridges aren't worth saving. Some family isn't worth keeping. And some routine treatments save your life, even when your family isn't there to see it.